Hello and welcome to the Nourish with Purpose podcast. It's Bailey and happy Wednesday. I'm so excited to share today's episode with you. Before we go ahead and get into the bulk of today's episode though, I also wanted to just ask if you haven't and you're really enjoying this podcast that you'd leave a rating or review. And if you do, go ahead and screenshot that and send it to me through Instagram, text, Facebook, whatever it is, just to show me, and I will get you entered into the Wellness Bundle giveaway that I am doing at the end of the year. So also, if you want additional entries, you can post this episode on your Instagram story, share with me what you loved about the episode, and I will get you entered again. As for a catch-up, the past week was really filled with a lot of activities revolving around my brother leaving for college. So I didn't necessarily do much to help him, but what we did do is we had 3 different meals that were kind of a send-off for him. So we did Friday lunch with my grandparents. We do that every school year, either at the end of the school year or the beginning. We call it chicken on the bone. We get fried chicken and we just have a meal together. And then on Friday evening, we got together with family friends, had a steak dinner for both my brother and his best friend. And then on Sunday, my husband and I went to my parents to eat supper with my family. So a lot of good conversation around the dinner table this last week. I also got to go on walks with my mom. I think and I don't have kids, obviously, but when they do leave for college, that's just a big transitional phase. And so just going for a walk with my mom to catch up with her was nice and hear more about how my brother's doing in college from what she's heard from him, and trying to just make sure that we're supportive of him, but at the same time, don't bombard him by texting him, messaging him, because college is a good time for you to have that freedom and kind of discover yourself, what you want to do with your, in the future, and you're building new friendships. So there's just a lot that goes on, and I think doing the best to not overwhelm him is kind of what we're all trying to do right now. I also feel like right now I just feel very balanced with my life, and that is I'm definitely riding the high of the roller coaster that is entrepreneurship and being in your 20s. But right now, I just feel really good with the routine that I've created and the balance I have with work. I'm trying to spend intentional time away in the evenings, putting my phone on silent mode at 7:30 at night, and then not looking at it until I'm done with my workout in the morning and I've had some breakfast and had time for reflection. And I know that things could completely flip in a week and I could get news that I don't want to hear, or just things can happen all the time that come up. But right now, the past week has just felt very comfortable, and I'm trying to lean more into that too. I'm also starting in-person fitness classes, so I think just the excitement around that is kind of carrying me right now. I met with the lady that I'm renting the space from, and then I have flyers that I had put out in town, and so I'm really excited. I'm offering a functional training class, which is for all fitness levels. It's low to moderate intensity, more of like a stretching class, self-massage, relaxation, just to kind of give you that foundation for then entering into a more high-intensity exercise class or environment. And then after that class, I'm holding a Pilates and strength workout. And that is just so exciting for me because I absolutely love the low impact side of Pilates and weight training. And so when you combine both of them, I personally just feel very productive, right? If I just do Pilates, yeah, it feels really good and it's relaxing, and it is way more challenging than I thought it was. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like I'm building muscle like I do when I'm lifting weights. And so adding 2 together is just kind of the perfect mix. So I'm excited to bring that into a workout class setting and get feedback from what other people, think of it as well. I also yesterday night went to an event and got to catch up with my friend Delaney. And that's always just so good. Like, because we don't live in Omaha anymore, I feel like I definitely lack maybe the social side of my relationships. Like texting and, sending videos and stuff on Instagram and TikTok is really fun, but it's not, that one-on-one in-person interaction that I really have noticed that I've lacked. So we got to talk a lot last night. We actually, at the event, there was a lot of, very, I would say, leaders in the community and just really cool people. And they were all, I would say, like in their 30s. And so we were just reflecting too. We're like, I think 30s are the new 20s. Like, I don't really dread 30 anymore, because I feel like when you get to 30, you have a job that you hopefully love. Maybe you've started your own business and it feels really stable. You have a little bit less pressure to really figure things out. And instead, you've learned to just enjoy the process of life and the different stages, or you've gotten married and you have a family. I just feel like the more I look at it, it looks better and better. But that's also not to say I don't enjoy the phase of life I'm at right now. I'm never wishing to be in a different phase of life. But when you're surrounded around people that are older than you and you can see like, oh, I don't turn 30 and just, I don't know. I don't have any like thoughts about 30-year-olds that are negative, trust me. But it's just, getting older, I think, is hard. And so when you're able to see people do it gracefully, it's a lot more encouraging. But other than that, I think we should just go ahead and get into the segment of how I'm nourishing my body, mind, and spirit. So how I did nourish my body this last week is I started adding Pilates into my workout routine. I had mentioned that before. I'm leading a class with Pilates and strength. And so I've been adding that back in. And I have that membership platform called Balance. It has anti-inflammatory recipes and workouts, but I'm doing a Pilates and strength challenge. It's a 5-day, exercise routine that is all solely based in Pilates and strength. And so I've been recording those workouts this week, and it's been really fun to get really creative and really merge the two. And so I've been loving doing that. And same with running, as I've been running, which I've talked about a lot, and I'm not going to talk any more about it, I promise. But when you do something that's so high impact, you need to balance it out with something that's low impact. So the days that I'm not running, I'm trying to do things that are very gentle on my body because I'm running longer distances. How I'm nourishing my mind is I'm really showing up every day to my job and doing what I can to help my business and life feel more stress-free. So this looks like I create daily to-dos, and it really is about 3 to 4 things that I need to get done that day. And I'm not stressing myself out over doing 100 different things. And so I also then don't put this off, because I know if I don't do those 4 things today, one of them is going to have to go till tomorrow. And I already have 4 things I want to do tomorrow. So I'm never really going to get ahead. So it does require a certain level of discipline, but at the same time, it's been really beneficial for me. I also like to map out my day based on my productivity. So I try to cram a lot in the morning, and then that way I know after lunch, it's kind of just smooth sailing. I can do a few things, but I don't have to force myself to get a lot of things done because I woke up early and got it done right away. I also like to get up and move my body in the morning. So I know I'm sharing a lot within the mind section, not all things that I would say you need to do tomorrow, right? You don't even need to do any of them. But this is what I just love to do is I like to get up and move my body in the morning, and I do it in a very mild way sometimes. So some days it is getting up and running 10 miles or 5 miles, or other days it's getting up and doing a core-based Pilates workout, and it's 25 minutes, and then I go for a walk during lunch. But doing it in the morning, regardless of how intense it is or mild, is what I know I need to do to release any bottled up emotions or feel calm before I eat or have caffeine or start working for the day. So I also know that in the morning, if I get it done, I don't need to really think about it for the rest of the day. And it's just, again, that's my most productive time of the day. So I really cram as much as I can into the morning. How I am nourishing my spirit is I actually started doing this a while ago, but prayer before client calls And so what I do when I meet with somebody, because we do one-on-one coaching and we meet on Zoom, but before we get on the Zoom, I say a little prayer about them, about the conversation, and that they feel supported and loved and cared for while we're talking. And I've noticed this helps too with any anxiety I feel before the call. Regardless of how comfortable I am with somebody, I tend to get really stressed out when I have to, get on a Zoom or call, and that's a part of my business. That's not something I want to get around. I can't avoid it, and that's okay because I do really love it. But at the same time, it's not that I don't get stressed out getting on a Zoom call every time. It's just something with who I am as a person, my personality. And so that prayer before the session has helped a lot, just calm my nerves or any, anxious feelings that I have towards the call. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the bulk of today's episode. It is about fitness trends or fitness industry trends that I personally would say they kind of got to go. We got to get these out of here, and I'm going to also share why. So I did a post about this on Friday of this last week, and I posted 8 different trends that are happening in society that I've noticed throughout the years and even more recently that I really just don't feel like are benefiting our internal health. Okay, so also as I've entered the more holistic health space, it kind of pains me to see some of these trends that have just started to really catch. And I often preach to do what works for you, and I always will, but I do that because that's part of our bio-individuality. And that's something that I've talked about in the past, but it means that we're all different and and that should be celebrated, right? It means that we're all unique individuals and that our health and our well-being should really be treated like that. But this also means that there's no one-size-fits-all approach, especially when it comes to holistic health. So rather, you find suggestions that really maybe lead you to one thing, and then it's trial and error from there. So that also means finding products, habits, or regimens that support your health, but the key phrase in there is that they support your health. So many trends in the fitness industry, fitness space are doing the opposite, and you really might not even know that right now. And so I'm going to preface this episode by also saying that this is not meant to offend, overwhelm, or confuse you. All of these trends and why I really think what I'm about to share and why I think they have to go is because they're stemmed from real life examples from me and a perspective that might just be a little different than what you see in the mainstream media. So although these trends might be supporting physical changes, right, the fitness industry is really about getting really toned and lean and strong and having that certain physique that people want and admire, right? We then often neglect what's going on internally and mentally. So there is that balance to be found, but until it is, it's kind of like we're floating around and grabbing at anything that is going to give us that quick fix or the external results that we want. So I'm not here to say that what I'm about to talk about is easy or pass any judgment, because I've tried the 75 hard challenge 2 times. I've searched for fat burning pills. I've tracked my calorie intake and the calories I burn at a workout. I've also posted my calories that I burned in a workout. I've purchased fat-free, sugar-free products because I wanted to lose weight more than anything else. I've also been tempted to purchase the Ghost protein powder that tastes like Chips Ahoy cookies, or there is that Alani new brand or the pre-workout that tastes like a tropical vacation. Those are all appealing, don't get me wrong. I'm not here to say they're not, because you look at that, you're like, man, I could eat a lot of protein or a protein shake that tastes like Chips Ahoy or Sour Patch Kids. I don't know. I think that could be very appealing, especially in your younger years where quality isn't as emphasized as just getting strong and lean and toned is. So that's why I say that I can't pass judgment, because I've done it. I've done the things I'm about to share with you. But as somebody who's on the other side of this, I do believe that I have a certain insight to share about it. So if you are interested in seeing the post, you can go to my Instagram at BaileyCN and it'll pop up there. It's the 8 fitness industry trends that I think have got to go. And so if you want to, know what I'm talking about, you can check that out there. Otherwise, I'm just going to do a deep dive into all 8 of those and tell you why. I want to give you the why behind it, because my hope is that nobody takes what I say as the gospel, right? You should look into what I'm telling you and do your own research if that is something you're interested in. I personally would never steer you in a direction that's going to harm your health, but there is also a lot of information out of there, a lot of different creators that are all saying different things that makes it really overwhelming. So my goal is to make this as least overwhelming or less overwhelming as possible and provide a lot of value. But at the same time, if I say something and you're like, I don't believe that, totally cool. Like, we can be friends and disagree, right? But I wanted to share with you today my why behind. So we're going to start first with the protein powder that tastes like Sour Patch Kids. This is the first one I said has got to go. And when I say this, I was truthfully meaning the Ghost protein powders. They have a whole line of drinks and pre-workouts and creatine and protein powders. And they do them in very fun flavors. They're very colorful. They look really appealing. But the problem is they are filled with so many lab-created products. So when we talk about anti-inflammatory, which is what I primarily focus on, we are trying to avoid anything that's really, really highly processed because it contains components that are not necessarily going to benefit your health. So when you see the words on these products that say natural flavors, but they don't tell you what the natural flavors are, it's not natural. It's still created in a lab, and that is where that misleading, or we're being misled, because they're saying it's natural. Like, my brother, he bought a protein powder, and I had told him I wouldn't recommend it, but he has goals physique-wise that I can understand that at 18 years old. But his protein powder, he was like, there is nothing artificial in it because it's supposed to taste like a raspberry cheesecake. And it says natural flavors, raspberry cheesecake. How in the world are they naturally flavoring strawberry cheesecake or raspberry cheesecake, So that's where it's kind of that question mark comes in, is if they're not telling me what exactly the natural flavor is, then that's where that skepticism should come in. They're also using artificial sweeteners. So these products are what lead people to then being addicted to sugar and constantly craving it. I did that episode with Laura where we talk about cravings and how you just can't maybe stop eating the ice cream once you start. That addiction to sugar is because there is so much sugar and fake sugar in the products that we're consuming these days. So that means too that they lack that nutritional value that other protein powders would, because they are filling that the real sugar they could put in it, the natural sugars they could put in a product, they're filling it with something fake. And so then it, again, just doesn't carry that same nutritional value. They also mask the lack of quality in their product by advertising that it's really high in protein, it's sugar-free, it's fat-free, it contains creatine. And this is all really appealing, again, for people who are wanting to bulk and cut or meet their physique goals. And so I want to also tell you this, that no protein powders or supplements are regulated by the FDA, which I will say more recently, I don't take everything the FDA says as gospel, and I don't put all my trust in them. But what I am saying is that means there's no guideline for what they can or can't put into their product. So you could see really quickly then why it's important that if you don't know what a product is in a supplement, that you ask the question or you do your own research to decide what it is or figure out what it is before you use it. So if I'm going to use a protein powder, I like to use the brand Juice Plus. I use their vanilla protein powder. I also, if I'm doing something that I don't really want to taste the protein, I'm using an Anthony's pea protein powder from Amazon. All right, number 2 was using fat-free products to cut. So if you don't, bulking and cutting it's pretty much what it says it is, right? You're putting on a lot of muscle mass and weight, and then you are cutting it by decreasing the amount of calories you're eating and training in a different way, is how I best understand that. So one way people try to cut is cut back on the amount of calories they're consuming. So if you've listened to episode 3, you might have heard me talk a little bit about why I think fat is so important, but I'm going to share on here too. So 60% of our brain is fat. So if we neglect it from not consuming the fat-filled products and we substitute them with fat-free products, you can kind of see how we would be missing out on feeding our brain the many nutrients that it needs to eliminate brain fog or improve focus and memory. So fat-free products are not filled with nothing, right? They don't extract the fat and then put nothing back in. They fill it with something, which is what we would call a filler. And with that, it typically is low in nutritional value. So they take out the fat and they fill it with something fake. And so it's not just lack of fat you're getting, but you're getting something that you don't really actually know what the source is of that product they've put in. And we also really need omega-3s. So omega-3s are what you find in your olive oils, avocado oils, coconut oils, raw nuts, avocados, hemp hearts, chia seeds. Those are omega-3s. But the low quality fat products like canola oil, vegetable oil, soybean oil, they contain those omega-6s, which isn't the type of fat that will decrease the inflammation in your body. So there's a difference there, omega-3 versus omega-6. Omega-3 is really good for brain health. Omega-6s, they are, the inflammatory oils. So I also wanted to say too that you can still lose weight and eat fat. So there's that movement where it's fat-free everything. That is a misconception because if you are looking to have balance on your plate and have the core 4 that I talk about, again, episode 3, listen to that. If you want to learn more about finding that balance, go ahead and give that episode a listen. I don't want to go too much into it today, but just know that eating fat does not instantly translate into fat in your body. It is stored differently. It's digested just like anything else is. All right, so then number 3 would be to avoid fruit because it's too high in sugar. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet by saying fruit is not the reason that you can't lose weight. Fruit is also not the reason for you gaining weight, and fruit will never be the reason that you don't meet your health goals. We have sugar in nearly every highly processed food on the market. So if you're wondering what it is that maybe is causing weight gain or lack of weight loss, I would suggest that you start by evaluating what your current eating habits are right now and then seeing where that extra processed sugar is being consumed. So there is a difference too between natural sugars and highly processed sugars. So different than the natural and artificial, flavors that I had talked about in the protein powder. Natural sugars, that's what comes from the earth, meaning it's a source of good sugar. And our body doesn't have to work quite so hard to break it down in our body. So this would be honey, maple syrup, agave, coconut sugar, stevia, monk fruit, or date sugar. Those are just some examples. Highly processed sugars are your high fructose corn syrup, white sugar, brown sugar, powdered sugar, any lab-created sugar like Splenda, or Trivia, or Sweet and Low. Those are those coffee sweeteners that come in those little colorful packets. Those are lab-created sugars that are very, very highly processed that, again, you're also going to find in a lot of your energy drinks or protein powders. Okay, number 4, taking a fat-burning and muscle-building supplement that isn't pure creatine. So high-quality creatine is still the best product on the market if you're looking to increase muscle mass, help recovery after an intense workout. Maybe you're wanting to prevent injuries by reducing dehydration and muscle cramping. The thing about creatine is that other products have artificial flavors or colors or sugars in them that make it harder for your body to sort out the good from the bad, is what I would say. So when you are looking to take a supplement to build muscle and help with muscle recovery, you can look at hundreds of studies that have been done on creatine since the 80s, maybe 90s timeframe, and it is still the best product on the market that is legal for people to take daily and see really good physical results. Number 5 was tracking daily in MyFitnessPal. So if you've heard episode 1, you know I had a little bit, I wouldn't even say little, I had an unhealthy relationship with tracking my food for about 2 years of consistently tracking my food and my exercise, or my amount of calories burned through exercise. So when it comes to tracking, I know a lot of coaches in this space, especially in the fitness industry, recommend that MyFitnessPal is the go-to for tracking your intake. Personally, I think that takes way too much time, it causes way too much stress, it's not always accurate, and it can create a really unhealthy obsession. Tracking calories is something that I might is in there because I don't do this with every client, but I might recommend to somebody to do for 1 to 2 weeks, but nothing past that. Okay, so it's good to be aware of the calories that you're consuming, but not let them control you. And so if you do track your food for 1 to 2 weeks, it can help you kind of recognize how many calories are in certain foods, just so when you're not tracking, you're not in the dark about, well, how many calories are in a banana? Oh, 90. Okay, good to know. It just gives you a little bit of insight into what amount of calories in your food. So if your goal is to lose weight, you know, okay, I can eat a lot of fruits and vegetables because they're very low in calories. Whereas if I'm going to have a bag of chips, highly processed chips, those are higher in calories, so that might be where I want to make an adjustment or find a replacement item for the bag of chips so I can enjoy what I love but also not have as high of calories. So it is always done in accordance to your health goals, right? And so if you're new to nutrition, that's where having that base of understanding is helpful. But I really think more than anything, we should learn to eat intuitively rather than depending on numbers to control our intake. I just think our society these days is so obsessed with the numbers. And that really is because we're becoming so less in tune with our bodies. I was just on a client call today and she's like, I really notice the difference between when I eat more nutrient-dense foods versus when I go out to eat or when I have ice cream. And we've talked about too, that's not a bad thing. Eating those foods are not a bad thing, but the fact that she is in tune with her body enough to know, wow, like there is a significant difference from when I eat these anti-inflammatory foods versus when I eat something more inflammatory. That is that mind-body connection that is getting so weak because we're depending on numbers or somebody else to tell us how we feel or medications or whatever it is. We are not in tune with our body anymore. So that is when tracking our calories is something we have to do because our hunger signals are so out of whack. We have no idea when we're truly hungry or what the source of that is. And maybe you're just thirsty. Maybe you haven't eaten a balanced meal in a long time. Maybe you're stressed. And we talked about that a little bit on last week's episode when we talk about cravings, but that is the problem, is we are so unaware of what our body is telling us these days that we start to track food because we want to have the number to back up maybe why we're seeing results or why we're not. Okay, so this can be something that you also start to quickly, very, very quickly obsess over, right? So you start comparing the calories that you've burned to the calories you've consumed. You start buying low sugar, low fat products so you can kind of store up your calories to have a dessert that night. And you also focus less on the quality and more on the calories, which in return, it's truthfully just not giving your body the nutrients that it needs. Okay, so I do think having the numbers to support how much protein you should have, how much water you should be drinking is a good thing. Okay, so if you use MyFitnessPal to just track your water, what I'd recommend is you do your water calculation and you pick the water bottle that you drink the most from, and you divide that number you got for how much your body needs, divide that by the number of ounces in your water bottle. That way you know, okay, I have to have 4 of my Stanley water bottles a day to meet my water goal, rather than tracking it, right, by the ounce. Or when it comes to protein, okay, I need to have 2 fists worth of protein in my meal to meet my protein intake that day. Okay, so then it becomes much more visual, and then it becomes number-based. So the numbers are meant to guide, but not necessarily follow to a T and obsess over. Number 6 is over-exercising and playing it off as a challenge. And this one it hits so close to home. And I truly could probably spend 2 hours ranting about this, but I'm going to save you from that. I'm also not going to let myself get worked up over it because it is so different person to person. But the reason I get worked up over this is because I see it all over. Join my 31-day fix to lose 31 pounds in 31 days. Okay, well, how long are you going to keep that off, right? Do you have the systems in place to still be successful after 31 days? Or the 75 hard, which is the one that I'm going to kind of focus a little bit on today. That was created by Andy Frisella, and I see people do it all the time. From a fitness industry standpoint, it is kind of the map of success. From a holistic health standpoint, it is the opposite. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you why. So what the rules are of the 75 hard challenge is you're supposed to drink 1 gallon of water per day, read 10 pages of a book. It cannot be an audiobook, you have to read. You have to do a workout 2 times per day for at least 45 minutes, and it has to be inside and outside. So 45 minutes inside, 45 minutes outside, and there has to be a 2-hour window in between your workout. You also need to take a progress picture every single day and follow some sort of diet. So it could be any type of diet, they leave that up to you, but it's kind of to your discretion. You also cannot have any alcohol for 75 days. So the problem that I see with these challenges is that if you have a history of disordered eating, over-exercising, whatever it is for you, these challenges are not going to help. A lot of times too, these challenges do not set you up for long-term success. So many people, and I would argue most people that I know that started the 75 hard challenge, the day after the 75 hard challenge, they probably had a drink, they probably didn't exercise, and they probably gave up their diet in a little bit of a way. Maybe they had the dessert that they hadn't been having for 75 days. And that is because when you are so strict on your body for 75 days, you're not building habits, you're depleting your body, and you are losing that intuition that comes from knowing when your body wants to exercise and knowing when it wants to rest. From knowing when your body wants to scroll on social media, from knowing when your body needs to read or your mind needs to read. Especially when it comes to drinking a gallon of water, that is something that you should be calculating if you truly want to know how much water your body needs. Do the calculation based on your body. Okay, don't do it because somebody told you to drink a gallon of water. Like for example, this Andy Frisella. I tried to do the 75 hard challenge 2 times. So I'm not saying this because I haven't tried it. What happened for me is when I tried to drink a gallon of water, Andy Frisella is probably 280-pound man. He's like a big bodybuilder, very successful entrepreneur. He's like a big dude, very, very intense, right? If you listen to the 75 Hard podcast that he used to like get everybody on the train of trying it, I was jazzed. I was hyped up, ready to go. Like, yeah, I can do this. I'm not going to let myself fail, right? He puts you in that mindset. But coming back to the water intake. So somebody that's 280 pounds is drinking a gallon of water. As me, who is, I won't say my weight, but I'm much less than that, right? If I tried to drink a gallon of water, like I was peeing every 10 seconds. And that might be TMI, but my kidneys were like in overdrive. They could not filter all that water out of my body. And so that's why having the number for your body is important rather than following a challenge that somebody whose physique is completely opposite of yours telling you what your body needs. Because you're truly the only person that knows what your body needs. Nobody can tell you what it needs. Okay? So I see these types of challenges all over the internet. I just the other day saw a story and somebody's checking off every single challenge that they had completed for the day. Like it's I don't know how many day challenge. I saw another one that the lady was trying to get people to join her 50-day challenge for free, and she would coach you and you would guaranteed to lose 20 plus pounds. Challenges like that they're kind of a scam, right? They're a scam because you go into it thinking you're going to see these results, and maybe you do, but at the end of it, you don't have the habits in place to stay consistent with it. And I just don't think that coaches should be continuing to make these challenges for their clients. That is something that they're required to do, right? And so when you see the word challenge, I encourage you just to look into it and see what it's really required of you. So like I'm doing my Pilates and Strength 5-day challenge. Yes, I used the word challenge in there. Don't love it, but I did because it just kind of flowed. The challenge is that you complete a workout every single day for 5 days. And the third workout of the week is a 10-minute stretch. So technically you're working out more intense for 4 days. And they're focusing on different body parts, they're different intensities, and they're all low impact. So that is a challenge where I'm not saying it because I created it. I'm not trying to be biased, but that is a challenge where it's like, that's realistic. Although maybe you haven't worked out that many times in a long time, if you really pushed your body to work out for 4 days plus a stretch in the middle of the two, you really could physically do that, and you're not going to notice a significant depletion of your health or your mindset, right? So just when you see a challenge, make sure that it's something that truly aligns with your goals and what's meant for you based on your history. Doing the 75 hard challenge for me brought me right back into my overexercising habits. You're working out for 90 minutes a day at 2 different times, one inside, one outside. I used to go and work out for an hour and a half, and that was when I was the most internally unhealthy. My mindset was terrible. I was not feeding my body enough food. You'll hear that in the first episode that I recorded too. When you listen to my story, is that was very, very unhealthy for me, even though externally, sure, I had lost the 35 pounds. I felt really confident in my clothes because they were all too big, right? Like those are things that kind of feel fulfilling. But when you look at your body, you're like, okay, but I'm neglecting my body. Yes, in a physique sense, I'm really proud maybe of what I look like, but internally my body is crying. And so that's where I encourage you just to look into a challenge and see if based off your history if it makes sense for you. All right, we've got 2 more. Number 7 is Apple Watch obsession with sharing, posting the calories burned during a workout. I want to tell you that I love seeing people share their workout, what they did. I love to see how long they worked out for, how many miles they ran, or progress photos, or just photos of them saying, hey, I'm proud of myself because I did this today. I love that. This is not a diss against any of that because I do that. I post that because it's encouraging for the people around you. And it personally makes me feel so proud of people when I see that on their Instagram stories or, whatever that is, because I want to cheer them on, right? I want them to stay consistent and feel good and proud about themselves. But where I see the issue is when people post their calories burned during a session. Because most of the time, these people are working out for an hour and a half to 2 hours, or they're working out for 30 minutes and really, really pushing their body. Not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to push your body. But when you're working out for that hour and a half to 2 hours, you're already in the gym for a long time. And most of the time, it's pretty consistent. It's about 6 to 7 days a week that they're there for 2 hours. So that's where I would see maybe they might be over-exercising. But again, that's person to person. I can't make that judgment from not knowing them. But it's hard for me to also understand what their motive behind it is. Because you can very quickly get obsessed with the calorie burn. And that is a really hard obsession to break. And so then this also leads the people you're sharing it with to feel shame. Or maybe they start to become unsatisfied with their own workout. It's also, everybody's body burns calories differently based on your age, weight, and gender. So this actually happened recently. My husband and I, we went for a walk and he had his Apple Watch on, or maybe we were going for a run. And he had his Apple Watch on and he had run 4 miles and he tracked his mileage, right? Calories burned. I went ahead and ran 6 miles. When we got back, we looked at our results and under his calories, I don't remember what the number was, but I know it was 200 calories more than what I burned running 6 miles. So it also then can very quickly become frustrating when you're like, well, how can the person that is doing maybe a little bit less than me or doing the exact same thing as me burn more or less calories than me? Like, it is so person to person and individualized. This is very similar to the what I eat in a day, because you could eat the exact same thing as somebody else and still look completely different. Okay, that's where bio-individuality comes in. Number 8 was caring more about low calorie than high quality. And I really feel like I talked enough about this already, but it's just focusing on the quality of your food over the calories, because when you have really high quality food, your body is going to love that. It's going to absorb the nutrients. When you have low calorie foods that are also very highly processed, your body is going to have to sort them out. Your digestive system is going to be overwhelmed and inflamed. It's just beneficial for you to focus on the quality. Okay, so in summary, of course, I always want you to do what works for you, but also I want you to really pay attention to the quality of what you're consuming. I also want you to determine what your goals are based on your history, and then participate in challenges accordingly. Lastly, just know that you are uniquely made and that your body cannot be treated like somebody else's to see the same results as them. You're unique, and that is a wonderful thing, and that should be celebrated, and it shouldn't be something that is frustrating. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this episode in prayer, and I'll get you out of here. So dear Lord, thank you so much for the opportunity just to talk openly today. I hope that what I've shared was placed on others' hearts and not overwhelming to them, not confusing to them, but rather encouraging that they are uniquely made by you and loved by you, and that their body requires something different than the person next to them, and that that's a really cool thing, and that the people around them also recognize that and treat them in a way that is unique to them. Just again, thank you for this day, and the person on the other side of this mic. I'm always very, very thankful that I have the opportunity to just talk so openly and love on and support other people. Amen. All right, so if you enjoyed this episode, again, feel free to give it a rating and review. Maybe share it with a friend. Let them know you listened to this episode, you liked it. And if you're interested in following along with my life on social media, you can find me at Bailey Seaton on both Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. All right, so with that, I will see you next Wednesday.